right, so today we are going to make a rainbow fish inspired by the book, The Rainbow Fish. And you can see at the beginning of the story, he has lots of special scales, but by the end of the story, he has only one because he shared them with all his friends. So at the end today, you will get to pick one of those special scales for your rainbow fish. Now, when we get started, we're gonna draw first. We're gonna use our Sharpie. And our first step, we want to make an oval shape a little bit bigger than our hand. So if you put your hand on your paper, try to make that oval a little bit bigger than your hand. And then we're going to use a triangle shape for a fin on the top and a fin on the bottom. And then there's two more fins on the bottom. Now this one here kind of overlaps a little. So if I start at this fin, draw it out and back up to the body, that creates that overlap. And then another one here. And then the tail comes out at the end. And the face uses a bumpy line like this. And then an eye. And there's a little line here for the mouth. Now, if you want, you can see there's a couple little extra details here. Kind of a little line up here. There's actually more of a lip shape if you want to create the lip shape. A little line there. So you can add those details if you'd like. There are also some wavy lines on the fins. If you want to add some of those, you can do that. You just kind of create a few little waves. And then the last part is the scales. So the scales, I actually like to turn my paper this way. I think it's easier to make a bumpy line that way. And what we're going to do is we're not going to make one scale at a time. We're going to make a row. So we're going to use a bumpy line, and it's going to touch the line in front of it. So I make a row of bumps, and then I make another row of bumps, and they touch the line in front of them. Once you've got your scales drawn, there is a little bit more that you can add to your picture. So let me finish these scales real quick. All right, so there's my scales. So rainbow fish is drawn. Now, there is also the setting of where rainbow fish is underwater. And you can see there's some leafy plants, some seaweed, some coral. Depending on different parts of the story, there's a sea anemone, there's some seashells on the ground. So you can add in some of those other details from the story. Make kind of the ground there. Looks like there's some rocks on the ground. So you could add in some of that. I could add in some of those sea plants. I kind of like the way these ones look here. So that's like a line and kind of a wiggly shape around it. So you can add in some of those. You also could add in some bubbles if you want. You don't have to do all of this, but you can pick a couple of details for the rest of the picture. Once that's finished, you're ready to do some coloring, and we are gonna color with the Paint Daughters. So I have all the rainbow colors here, and then I also have white. When I choose colors for the fish, you can make it rainbow colored and do all the rainbow colors. I think in the story, it's mostly cool colors with a little bit of pink. It's got kind of a blue face there. It's up to you. You can make it look like rainbow fish, or you can make up your own version of rainbow fish. So there's two ways you can use these. The first way is you can just dot with them. Now, I shouldn't see the hammering, be gentle, okay? And if the paint isn't coming out, usually it's just clogged, and an adult can probably fix that for you. Or you can put the lid back on it and then get a different one instead. So I'm gonna do kind of a blend here of yellow. Oh, I didn't get my pink. So I'll do orange and red for his body. So I'm just gonna kind of mix these colors up. And that's the first way you can work with these, is you can just do lots of little dots with them. The second way is you can color with them. So let's say I want to make the tail red. When I color with them, I don't want to press too hard because I don't want to rip that little fabric tip, but you can actually use them kind of like a marker. So if you want to do some regular marker style coloring with them, you can do that as well. Okay, so I think I'll make the face red too. So once rainbow fish is colored, so I've still got a couple more parts here. I need the fins. I think I'm gonna make those purple. And then maybe I'll make the lips purple too. So I'm just kind of fill those lips in. I think I'm gonna leave the eye white. And then I'm gonna color, I like to color the fins. I think it's a little easier than trying to dot the fins. right, so now I can add color to the background. So for example, I would probably make my seaweed green because that's a color that makes sense. I'm gonna fill the seaweed and maybe the sand in, and then maybe I'll do dots in the water. So there's my seaweed. Maybe I'll use the yellow for the sand. Kind of outline that space first. Maybe I can do a combination too. So I'm gonna do yellow sand, and then I'm gonna put some orange dots on top. Notice I am putting the cap on these whenever I'm done using one of them, because if all the caps are off of them, they tend to roll off the table. Also, if I set it that way, it rolls. But if I set it on the open end, it does not roll. So pay attention to that, because otherwise the cap will roll right off the table. All right, so there's some nice orange dots in the sand, and then maybe I'll do some red rocks. All right, so now in the water, I like to do the dots for the water. You could just do some blue dots. You could also do more than just blue dots. Sometimes I do blue and green. Sometimes I do blue, green, and purple. So that's up to you. And you can really fill it up, or you can do just a few. So you kind of have to decide what works for you. But again, if you're gonna do dots, don't hit it really hard. Be gentle. These don't need to be hammered down. So there's some blue. Maybe I'll put a couple more up there. And then maybe I could use the white. So white is kind of more of a blender for these. So if I'm doing white on top of blue, it's probably gonna turn light blue, because white and blue make light blue. So if you wanna use the white, you can, you don't have to, but I will say you wanna be careful, because it will cover up those lines that you drew. So if you're covering all your lines up, then you're not gonna see them anymore. So I would not recommend using white inside of rainbow fish here. All right, and then once you're done and you've got your paint markers done, you can put those back and then choose from my bucket here. I've got special scales. There's some that are more holographic like this. And then these ones are actually a lot like the ones in the story. So you can choose one, just one, because it's like when Rainbow Fish shares his scales at the end, everybody gets one. So you can decide where you're gonna put that special scale on Rainbow Fish when you're done. And then your picture is finished.